Hey dear friends, it's Bill McDonald, the Common Sense Math Doctor. Today I'm going to do question number 1 from the 5th grade test that I made based on last year's 2019 test. And I think that even though the answer choice is multiple choice, not open-ended, it would be a really good idea to teach your kids that you have my graphic organizer mathematics chart to go ahead and practice bubbling in. So I'm going to show you how to, first of all, solve this problem, show you how to bubble in, and then I'm going to even, instead of using the E to eliminate the wrong answers and explain why they're wrong, I'm going to do what I call an extension, going beyond the problem. Instead of rushing 100 miles an hour to the next problem, sometimes it might be a good idea to ask a question that's grade level appropriate, but that would require your students to extend their thinking, to think outside the box, or to think critically, what some of you might say. Alright, so rules is to read, underline, label, eliminate, and explain, and then select the answer in the book and the Scantron. So we're going to read the problem this time. The bar graph below shows the ages of the members of a committee in the community after the bar graph was completed. Someone noticed that one of the members, named John, had been left off the list. 2 sentences so far. So remember that the more sentences a student has to read, the more difficult the reading becomes, because sometimes it's not about the level of rigor of the problem. There's just so many sentences to read. The kids who struggle with reading get lost along the way. It's like they're reading a foreign language. So we got to help them find the keywords, and here we go. Including his age, the total years of life of everyone combined was 380 years. Okay? That means we're going to have to figure out, according to the question, what is John's age that should be placed on a new graph. So if the total has been given, then we've got to practice teaching the kids to understand that once you have the total, then you're normally going to subtract. And my mathematics chart does remind us that when you're looking at keywords, since the total is 380 years and each of the ages of these people is in years, and John's age is in years, because it says here the keywords are the same, then we can only add or subtract. If the keywords, in this case years, were different, there was something besides years that we were looking at, then you can multiply or divide. So I went ahead and worked out the problem on a separate sheet of paper. So step 1 is, let's turn some notebook paper sideways so we can practice writing out years in tens and the ones place, and also practice the tenths place, because I'm going to ask a question that goes beyond whole numbers and goes into decimals. So Irma is 50 years old. Jill is 32 years old and nothing else. Kat was 24 years old and nothing else. Abby was 62 and 0/10 years old. Ben is 32 and 0/10 years old. Abe, 56 and 0/10 years old. Ken, 72 and 0/10. So their total years was 328 and so you have the ball here, and I want to show it to you. One of the ways to help the kids separate whole numbers and decimals is to, if you can see it's lit up there, bounce it on the floor. Whenever you're talking about decimals, we bounce it on the floor. If I was to say 1,000, that's pause, a comma, million, the same thing. And This ball cost me $1 at the Dollar Tree. It's cool, it has glitter and it lights up, and so it helps your kids understand place value. So step 1 was finding out what is the subtotal. Step 2 was saying, okay, John's age was missing, so if we take the total that they gave us, the 380 years, and subtract the 328 years that the others had, then we'll get John's age of 52 years, 52 and, so let me bounce the ball again, 52 and 0/10. But that's our answer. So if we were to go ahead and select the answer, it's going to be there on the choice. So let me get to it for you. There is letter B, letter C is 52. So I want to make a very tight circle. Write the C again. Fill it in. And then we'll eliminate. And the reason they would have 42 or 62 would be because they would have an extra carry or an extra borrow, most likely. Something else that was important that they had to look at the chart and figure out that since there were only a total of 5 lines between every 10 digits, 10 years divided by 5 means that every line is worth 2 years. Sorry for my spelling there, I was in a hurry. Okay, if your students stopped at step 1, 328 was the total years, but they didn't ask for the combined age of the people in the list. They asked for John's age, who was missing. So here's my extended question. Something else that I had mentioned to you that you could do was have your kids place the letter choice they choose next to the number so that the 1C in the book will have a better chance of matching the 1C in the Scantron. Okay, so here's an extension. John's birthday is in 3 months, period. What is his actual age to the nearest 10th? Okay, so I used my mathematics chart to show this. The answer was originally that John is 52 and 0/10 years old. But because it said that his birthday was in 3 months, that means John is 52 and 9/12 of another year. So in order to change a fraction to a decimal, we have to divide. And so I've done that on my chart here. 9 is the dividend, 12 is the divisor. The dividend goes in the box, the divisor goes outside the box. So 9 divided by 12 is what you're looking for. Alright, since 12 can't go into 9, we're going to multiply by 12s until we get to 90. And for those of you that haven't seen it, what I'm doing here is what I call my math strategy, Masred, with that we multiply something until we come up to an answer that's equal to or greater than the product that we're looking at in the dividend, 90 in this case. So step 1, there it is right there. What we multiply goes on the top, the answer goes on the bottom. So since step 1 we were trying to make 90, I know that when I multiplied times 8 it went past, so we multiplied 7, so the 7 goes on the top, and the answer, the product was 84, goes on the bottom. So then the S of Masred is to subtract. 90 take away 84 is a remainder, RE, of 6, and we're either going to drop or we're done. And in this case we have to drop because they said they wanted the answer to the nearest 10th, and we can't stop at the 10th because there were some more numbers to work with. We drop the 0, and so now we're going to be going by 12s until we make it to 60. And so step 2 place a 2 there. Whatever you multiply goes on the top, the 5. The answer goes on the bottom, 60. And so my remainder, multiply the answer, subtract, my remainder this time is 0. So I'm either going to drop or done. In this case, I'm done. So 12 and 75/100 is how old John is. So if you look here, I went ahead and already converted to the common sense math chart. 52 and decimal bouncing on the floor. 9/12 is the same thing as 52 and 75/100. Let me do the ball bouncing trick there. 52 and you say the number that you see, 75, and then you say its address, hundreds. But the question said to the nearest tenth place. So since 5 is halfway to 10, you would either use 7/10 if the number next to the 10th place is from a 0 to a 4. But if we make it halfway or more like we did in this case, then you could round it to the next tenth. So John's age to the nearest tenth would be 52 and bounce the ball on the floor, 8, read the number, and then read your address, 8/10. So that's what I would recommend that you do. Try to think of a way to extend beyond the problem, and or give another example, maybe add another person in there and see if the total is still 380, then their combined age, you'd have to figure out what each person would be if 2 people are missing from the list. And one more thing I would recommend, if you're going to have them extend beyond the problem, then you might have to have them say in a complete sentence, John's actual age to the nearest tenth would be 52 and 8/10 years old. That way they can practice capitalization and punctuation, writing open-ended responses in complete sentences. Thank you guys, and God bless.